Either she homeless or she got problems. That's the only reason why she run to a black man.
I like him already.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on!
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
Producer, director, writer. He is the ultimate filmmaker and bona fide foodie. You're listening to The Quidditas Factor with Michael J. Arbouet.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to another episode of The Quidditas Factor. I am your host, Michael J. Arbouet. I can't believe we are at episode 20. Now that word, I've been using it for, the last couple episodes. Quidditas, that's the name of the show. What does it mean? Adriana, please give them the definition.
Quidditas, Latin, the whatness of a thing, the essential nature of something, the quality that makes a thing what it is.
Yes, quidditas is the whatness or essence of a thing or person. And basically in this show, we try to discover that magical je ne sais quoi, that thing that makes you, you. And in this episode, I want to kind of discuss why people excel, because my next guest has certainly excelled in a lot of things that he's done. But what is that difference between people who excel in life and people who never seem to get started? Well, successful people tend to have daily practices that build over time with consistency and determination. And you can excel in life if you do these two things. If you practice your craft, if you study what you went to school for, if you take every day to learn something new, eventually you'll get better at it. And it reminds me of a quote by Winston Churchill. And that quote is, "The pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity, and the optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty." And that's really true. If you look at things with a positive mindset, you'll be able to conquer them. The person that I'm talking about was born in Jackson Heights, Queens. At the age of 16, he used to do stand-up comedy and impersonations, and from there, he's gone on to be a great actor and producer. He's known for his role as Alex Romero in Season 5 of Netflix series House of Cards, and as Armando Salazar in the Hulu series Love, Victor. And the person I'm talking about is none other than James Martinez. James, welcome to the show. Hey man, how you doing?
Hey, good.
So the first question I have for you, and I've asked this question of all my guests, when you were like 8 or 9 years old, did you always want to be an actor? Was that the dream?
I didn't know acting was a thing. I just knew that I liked attention. I liked an audience. I liked performing. My thing was mimicking other people's personalities, their gestures. That's kind of where it started. I started in elementary school. I got involved in talent shows, school plays, things like this. I was very good at impressions, but it was just a social thing. It wasn't really like I didn't really have an aha moment where this is what I wanted to do with my life. I just knew that I was funny and I had something that worked for me socially in school.
So let's move on to high school. Did you catch the acting bug there? Tell me about that.
High school, that's kind of when I realized I had something because people were starting to pay attention. So I started taking acting classes after school and then got involved in the high school plays. And then my high school teachers, thankfully, thanks to them, they approached me and said, you should really take this seriously. And at that point, I didn't really know what they were talking about, but they were very encouraging. So just to emphasize a little bit of the importance of teachers. Mm-hmm. So they coached me and eventually really prepared me the way I needed to be prepared to audition for Juilliard. And once I got accepted to Juilliard, that's when things really got started.
Wow, what a blessing to go to Juilliard. You're now part of the famous alumni. I happen to know that Anthony Mackie, Val Kilmer, Sarah Ramirez, they all went there. Tell me about that experience.
Well, Juilliard is, the line is a little blurred as to whether it's a college or a conservatory. I would say it's more of a conservatory. Mm-hmm. It definitely gives you the basics of a college education, but it really conserves you to hone in on what it is that you think you're good at. And in my case, that was drama. Juilliard started out as a music school, and then it started as a school of dance, then singing, and then the drama department was the last department to evolve in the school. That's Robin Williams, Christopher Reeve, Kevin Spacey. You know, these are the cats that start they started seeing the beginning of the drama department at Juilliard. And then once that happened, then the greats started coming in just because of the quality of the training. And luckily, I didn't know what Juilliard was when I auditioned. I really didn't know how prestigious it was, and I think that actually worked to my benefit. But once I got in, I realized how, I didn't even have words. I didn't even know. I mean, I was 18 years old, straight out of high school, and it was an intense training program. But I was young enough to be open to be basically stripped naked of my personality and all my inhibitions and rebuilt to be an actor, aware of other people and theater, and just I was just a sponge. So it was a good time to be at that school.
So I know a lot of actors who are listening to the show and just starting out. You know, once you graduated from Juilliard, were you an instant hit, or did it take some time?
Well, in a nutshell, on your fourth year, that's when the student body is exposed to the agents and the industry. So we have a showcase, and that's when the agents and casting directors and producers come to Juilliard once a year to look at the graduating class and see if there's anyone worth taking on. You know, after being graduated this long, sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a miss, sometimes, you know, they go to, you know, they have high expectations when they see a Juilliard showcase. And some of the amazing, you know, actors, well-known, not known, are discovered at that showcase. So I was kind of rolling with the punches. I didn't know what to expect when I went to the school. It all happened really fast for me. But by the time I was a junior and a senior, I knew that this was an opportunity that I needed to make the most of. It was like you get launched out of I don't know, some kind of a shotgun or something. It's just you get this amazing training, and then you get shot into the real world, and you know, sometimes you meet the right person and hit the ground running and succeed right away. Sometimes it takes a while to find your footing. And for me, it was that. I needed I knew I had the skills. I just needed some time to find my footing and find the right people, my right team to get me going. And I feel like finally, many years later, after graduating, I finally found my groove. So here I am. But there's no, if you're ready for it, there's no better place to start from. You know, I mean, they really got me going. Not only with my skills, but the people they introduced me to in the graduation process. And it was just somewhere to start from. And that was the first time that I felt like making a career out of this was actually possible.
So your first couple of jobs after graduation, was it in soap operas, television, or theater?
Regional theater. You know, I traveled around the States just doing good theater. Just work that was very difficult, just not seen by many people.
Yeah.
But now, you know, when I get those higher profile gigs, I think back at those roles that I performed on stage in front of all those people in regional theaters off Broadway, and you know, that gives me the confidence to be able to act opposite some of the greats these days. So
let's talk about when we first met, because my brother was producing this film at the time, and you and I were doing some acting in that film, I Believe in America, which is now known as Lost Revolution. And we got to work with such greats as Melissa Lito and Ann Dowd. Tell me what you remember about that experience working with Michael Narvaez.
Yeah, Michael J. Narvaez was he was a warrior, man. He went through the pavement the hard way. He was a great writer with a real cause in his heart about Puerto Rico, the history of the island, and a lot of his writing was based on the history of Puerto Rico. And you know, I myself am Colombian, but I could relate to a lot of the history that he was passionate about, just in the sense of you know, looking for good leadership to make our country the best it could be. So I was drawn to him and the messages. Keep in mind, I was, you know, 19 at the time, but he inspired me, you know, and the way he wrote, the characters he wrote, especially being a Latino playwright, to me was something, okay, I found a link between my heritage and my profession. You know, it was the first time I was able to find some semblance of connection and purpose in what I could do. So he introduced me to I Believe in America. We did the play version in a couple of spaces in New York, Theater Row, which is that row of theaters in Midtown Manhattan. And yeah, he exposed me to a real live public audience for the first time outside of school. And he took me under his wing, and he had been in the business for a long time. He's a New Yorican, and he just had that attitude that I needed, you know, because I was young and afraid and nervous. I knew I had something, but he became kind of a male figure to me, you know. My dad passed many years ago, so to have that influence, that male influence that I needed, that grown up to be like, you got this, let's do it. You know, don't let the rejection is part of it. You know, he just toughened me up a little bit. I knew what I had to do. I just needed to toughen up a little bit to be able to face the business side of the industry. And he got me going in that respect.
Yeah, I wish more people got to see that film because it really had an interesting message. I know it had some problems with distribution.
Yeah, and I learned that he was frustrated with the making of that film, and that's why I'm saying I learned so much about the business, is watching him jumping through all these hoops, just trying to get this movie made. And then even still to this day, looking back, I'm still learning about why he had to go through what he went through. I mean, I don't want to get too deep or anything, but the business is tough.
Yeah.
But giving a voice to those who don't really have much of a voice, that's yet another obstacle on top of everything that is so difficult about this business to begin with. So he really kind of like prepared me for what I was in for in my, you know, for the rest of my life.
It's crazy that this movie hasn't been seen because we got to rub shoulders with such great actors. I mean, we worked with Roger Gunnipper-Smith and Melissa Leo, Ann Dowd, Jose Yankee.
Yeah, Jose Yankee was in there, Melissa Leo.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and that's the thing. It's these are the names that got involved, and we're so grateful for it. But also, you know, Michael introduced me to some great New York talent as well. So it was just all in all an amazing learning experience. It did make it to the HBO Latino Film Festival.
Yes.
And yeah, it was just a film that was a bit of ahead of its time, and something that people weren't really ready to listen or understand. But that's the way Michael is. Michael is an artist, a writer of truth, and he puts it out there in a very unapologetic way. And sometimes that doesn't function too well in the business, but you know, this is just the kind of battle that these artists have to go through, so that we can get some of these greats that really put that footprint on the film industry that we need. So I'm very grateful for meeting Michael.
We're going to get into some of the great roles you've had in movies and television recently, but let's go back to that first role, that big role. What do you think that breakout role for you was?
You know, I dabbled a lot. I did a lot of Off Broadway and a lot of shows that, you know, if by a big break do you mean a learning curve, then yeah, then there's a theater gig at a Manhattan Theater Club in New York where I played Jose Canseco. That was a big break for me as far as having the confidence I needed to to pursue a career as an actor. But as far as exposure goes, I would say probably Breaking Bad on AMC.
Mhm.
And that's where I met, Giancarlo Esposito and Bryan Cranston, and being with them on set, and it was a pivotal scene in Breaking Bad, season 4, episode 8, where you finally meet the missing pollo hermano. He's the other part of this team of people, which is Gus and this mysterious person who made the Pollo Hermano franchise happen, and everyone was anticipating to see who this other hermano was. So when the episode came along, it was a big reveal. So the ratings on that particular episode were it wasn't just the guest star part. It was, and I didn't know doing the role that many people were going to tune in to see who this person actually was. So to me, I was, shoots in New Mexico. I showed up, I did the role, and I thought the relationship between Max and Gus was fascinating, because it was, are they a couple? Are they just two friends that really care for each other, that have a deep history? All I knew that Vince Gilligan, he just really knew how to tell a story in a very complicated, multi-layered way, where these are two people that just love each other and didn't want to. They were just protecting each other. That's all. And he left the rest up to the audience. And when the show finally aired, my phone blew up. It was like, what? I had no idea this was going to be you. This was a huge moment. In fact, I still keep getting DMs, messages, texts, emails about, getting a spinoff about that relationship, because, he met him in Chile and helped him, and then they figured out a way to help each other, and then they came up with the formula that eventually ended up in Walter White's hands, and made him the big icon character that he is. So that to me was what really got me launched to some. It's not only about getting amazing parts and offers. It's also about getting better opportunities. The exposure just led to better opportunities.
So another iconic role you had was in one of my favorite television shows, Queen of the South. And that your performance just blew me away, because I know what a nice guy you are, and you play a bad guy. So it's amazing to see your growth and development. Tell me about that role.
That means a lot to me. Thank you. And like I said, had it not been for my theater history and the hustle and the, all the work that I put in, in the early 2000s, doing this very challenging work on stage, I don't think I would have been able to have the confidence to sit across, Bryan Cranston and Giancarlo and really just sit there and be like, okay, let's get to work. I mean, I always wondered why I had to struggle so long to finally get to where I wanted to be. But really, it sounds cliche, but things do happen for a reason. Looking back, I needed to do all that to learn and get the experience I needed to get to where I am now. And the journey continues, because, people have this misconception that successful people are set and they're good. And it's one thing to get to where you want to be, but it's another thing to stay there. So we really have to remain true to our purpose and our craft.
And James, what I love about your career is that you're so diverse. I mean, you go from one end of the spectrum to the other. A couple of weeks ago, I interviewed actress Deborah Twist, and we talked about your role in Gravity, which is a comedic, hilarious role. And you're not in a box at all.
I refuse. In fact, I got a lot of. It's a double-edged sword sometimes, because when people figure out what it is that you do well, you work a lot. Because you walk in and you're like, oh yeah, we know what we're getting. We know the product and we know it works. So we're just gonna apply it to whatever it is that we're trying to put out there and profit and make money and succeed. But it was really never that simple for me. Because I just wanted to do it all. And, and growing up, I would watch these Latino actors, just, it's a different time now, but back in the late 80s, early 90s, it was like I was watching Italians play Puerto Ricans, and it was just like, what's going on here? And I just kind of really, in my own, and it really goes to show you that a dream, a thought, can really turn into something real if you actually pursue it seriously. So I didn't look up to the Latino characters that I saw on TV. I looked up to I looked up to Gary Oldman. I looked up to Peter Sellers, Charlie Chaplin. I looked up to just really talented people that couldn't be put in a box. Michael Jackson, Led Zeppelin, Bob Dylan. These are people that just once you thought that you got them figured out, they threw a little curveball at you and showed you that they could do other things. And that was always the kind of artist I wanted to be. And that I realized that kind of in my early 20s. It's a much longer road because you're definitely working against the grain, but I'm literally loving the work that I'm doing right now. So all those efforts I'm feeling we're finally, worth it.
It's great. Another great show that you're on, and I just interviewed Kelly Acoin a couple weeks ago as well, and he's Dollar Bill on Billions, and then I see you on Billions. So tell me a little bit about that role.
When you just start saying, I like that show, I don't care whether or not I'll get on it, I want a shot. And that was many, many years of doing that. It was just, you grow up thinking that you don't really have a place in certain genres or certain shows because of, you notice a pattern in the casting or, in the style of the show or, even in theater, off Broadway and Broadway, it was just like, no, I don't belong there. Or agents just say, you know what, don't waste your time. But I said, no, I want to go. I don't care if I have 8 auditions a week for things that I'm not right for. I consider all that practice. And auditioning for characters that are very far from who I am is a challenge. And even if I don't get the role, I grow from just the audition itself, just trying to be someone I'm not, and the further the character is from myself, I feel like I'm stretching myself, I'm challenging myself. So I had to go through many agents to finally find the right agent that understood what I was trying to do, which was go against the odds, But when the agents hear go against the odds, what they hear is, you're not going to get booked and I'm not going to make any money. But, I found some agents that really were looking at the big picture, and they submitted me for everything, no matter what the ethnicity was, what the physical type was, no matter how far off it was for me or how little the odds were of getting the role, they submitted me and until something stuck, all I cared about was the material. The writing was good. The cast was good. The show was good. Put me in there, whatever it is. If it's my age range, just send me in. I don't care. Just send me in. And they did that. And that's when, it's a numbers game. The more I went out there, the more the odds were of getting on these shows that I've always wanted to be on. And Billions was definitely one of those. Working with Paul Giamatti was another learning experience for me, Just the fact that he wasn't even good at memorizing lines, to me, got my confidence going. I'm like, wow, damn, if Paul Giamatti can't memorize his lines right, I'm but then once he's camera ready, he's brilliant. And, everyone has their own process. And that in and of itself was priceless to take home with me.
So here in the Quidditas Factor, we like to ask the same kind of questions to find out what makes you you. So my first question to you is, what's something that people seem to misunderstand about you?
Maybe that I'm a bit of a pushover sometimes. I think maybe, I'm an open person, and I'm nice to anybody if they just give me a chance. So, you know, I think certain people may think that I'll put up with certain things simply because I'm nice and I'm open to ideas and people, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'll say yes to everything. So maybe that's
Okay.
one thing.
So at the beginning of every show, I always ask the audience what Quidditas means. But to make it easier, I'll let's just say that Quidditas means superpower. What is your superpower?
Well, my superpower, I guess, evolved with time, and I realized it's so funny. I was actually having this conversation with my wife last week, and she pointed it out to me. You know, sometimes you just need a partner to really show you your strengths. You know, because you're just so caught up in the hustle and trying to better yourself that you don't really know what your superpowers are. You're just doing your thing and you hope for the best. But I think lately I have figured out that I have stopped being afraid of being myself and not afraid of admitting what my weaknesses are. And I think that's probably it. My superpower is not being afraid to be me.
What's the one thing that acting did for you that you didn't expect?
I think it educated me in a very academic way. I always thought in high school and college that I don't need academics to do what I do because I'm an artist. But actually, I learned that was actually wrong. I learned that knowing my history, my literature, even my math, has all informed all the characters that I've ever played in my career. And if I ever play a role where, you know, the character is talking about stuff that I don't know about, whether it be politics, medicine, you know, I do my work, and I always end up feeding another part of my soul or my brain due to a role that isn't even close to who I am. So education is definitely something that I wish I would have taken a little more seriously back when I first started. But I'm trying to make up for that now, and it's helped my career for sure.
Tell me, what's something you think you failed at?
I guess being so hard-headed was one of my things, because I was so reluctant to do the expected. I didn't want to do what I was comfortable with, but sometimes I had to do that as a means to an end. And I guess I wish I wasn't so stubborn when I first started. And I wish I was just a little bit more open-minded about what I had to do to get to where I am. But I try not to think about those things. But at the same time, you know, had I not committed those mistakes in the business, I wouldn't have been informed now. So now I'm a lot more business savvy. I'd like to think that I'm just better at making professional choices. But that was just me growing as an artist back in the day, as just a starving actor in New York. So,
You know, life is such an interesting journey. Tell me about somebody who touched your heart and how they changed your life for the better.
oh boy, my father, when he passed away, I was in my late teens, and it hurt so much, and all I felt was the loss. But then I started to realize why I missed him so much, and it was because I admired all those things, all my strengths that I have now is what he had. So he was an artist, he was a poet, he was a performer, he was a DJ, he really just loved experimenting in life, and those are all the things that I believe have played a huge part in who I am. So when he passed, it was it was something that changed my life. And I guess subconsciously I've been trying to take the gifts he gave me and run with it. So it was definitely my father.
You recently became a father. Congratulations. Tell me, how do you juggle family life versus work life? Where's that balance?
You learn from your mistakes, and once you think you got it figured out, then you got more challenges coming. So, try to do a self-tape during a quarantine with a crying baby next to you. It's very difficult. I've also become a father during a very strange time. My son was born in March, so it was literally day one of the quarantine. So it's been really, I don't even know how to describe it. There isn't much work out there right now. There isn't really much to do. I'm having to find different ways to stay creative. I'm reading a lot of scripts. I'm even doing Zoom readings of screenplays and plays, just trying to collaborate in any way I can with other artists, just to stay inspired. So I think that's been the biggest challenge right now, not only as a father, but just as anyone during this time, is to stay inspired and motivated.
Yeah.
So, so far so good.
Tell me about a funny instance or moment on set that happened to you recently.
I guess I could tell you a story and plug my last project at the same time, which was on Love Victor, that's streaming right now on Hulu. I just I showed up with my wife on set, and these kids, the story is really revolves around a Latin family, and when the kid playing my son just basically told me, I don't know how to dance. I started giving him salsa lessons on set, and he knew a lot about cars, and I could tell he was kind of judging me for not knowing too much about cars. So we just kind of made an agreement on set. It's not really funny. I just thought it was interesting that he taught me about cars, and I showed him a couple of moves on set. So I thought that was kind of funny, but it really shows you like. Just these first, second generations right now. I was raised by a very old school kind of mentality where it was just all about the music and live music and dance.
You look sideways if you're a Latin person that doesn't know how to dance.
Exactly. So working with a cast that is basically it's a high school based show. And we play the parents. So hanging out with all these kids now that are so talented, I'm a little envious that they got exposed to the business so early on. I wish I would have, but everything led to this, so I can't complain. That it was just those little cultural awakenings that you have when you work and meet all these different types of people, which you get to do when you do this kind of work. And you should know. I mean, it stays exciting. It keeps you on your toes, and it really just keeps your life interesting. And I can't see myself doing anything else at this point.
Yeah, that's kind of funny because that kind of leads into my next question, which is, what's one common myth you'd like to debunk about our industry right now?
I guess it's this idea that Hollywood is this vain, superficial, money-oriented business. I judged Hollywood a lot when I started in theater because I didn't believe that they were doing real art or sending a real message out there. I think the TV and film industry are very well aware of what's going on right now, and it's really the golden age of television. So it's really a beautiful thing that's going on right now. I mean, obviously, it's involving a lot of change and transition, but I've always been a bit of an optimist, and I'm also a very godly person, so I think that pain is a sign of growth and good things to come. So I really believe that television and film, which has so much leverage and power these days, are really trying to better themselves. It's tricky with business because you have to balance money and morale, but it's a beautiful time. It really, really is. It comes with a lot of rejection and disappointments, but you know, I turn on the TV and I'm seeing the slow but steady growth that I wanted to see, which leads to more opportunities for people that look like us. So don't knock TV. Try it. It's scary. A lot of people are very easy to turn down things that they're afraid of. And it was very scary moving from New York to LA and pursuing the business side of acting. I was very self-righteous because I felt that because I was a theater actor that I was an artist, and that if I went to LA, I was going to sell out. So that's not the case. In fact, it's the opposite, because if you do some significant work, it'll be seen by way more than 99 people in a theater.
That's so true. Tell me, what's the best compliment you've ever received?
Actually, the best one I received was about a month ago, after the show aired. And it was by a teenager in Brazil who was transgender and Black. And he sent me a message telling me that he had been watching me and never said anything, but he didn't identify with me because of his sexuality, but because the odds were so against him in his circumstance, being poor and Black and questioning his sexuality, that he sent me a message saying that the show made him feel like it was possible for him to be happy. That really touched me. And this was just someone I didn't really expect to hear from, but he was very, very touched by not only the show, but the kind of progress that could be happening in the world. So he just felt like his parents weren't letting him be himself, but that the show made him feel like there was a light at the end of the tunnel. So that was very touching. And I mean, that alone is that made my year, honestly, because it makes me feel like I'm not just some actor trying to be rich or famous. I'm actually trying to do some work that could make a positive change.
Outside of acting, what are you curious about right now?
I'm curious about kids. I've been doing some inner city stuff and just kind of trying to understand, especially now, just having a kid myself. I'm really interested about getting into the psyche of the development of children, their mental health, and being able to circum their surroundings and the way that they were raised. I'm from Jackson Heights, Queens, you know, and it's obviously one of the many places in New York that are being gentrified and being changed. And, you know, suddenly these kids grew up in a neighborhood and they're surrounded by a culture that they don't understand. And these are just things that I've learned from just teaching acting or talking about the industry, answering questions that kids may have. So I'm doing a little bit more and more of this work, including with the show. We're promoting the show not only to the general public, but also trying to see how teenagers are reacting to these kind of stories. So I'm just trying to get into some more classrooms. I've gone back to my middle school and elementary school in Queens, and just trying to hear out these kids and what they have to say.
Here's a funny question for you. Is there something I should have asked you but didn't?
Maybe there's something you should have asked me and I just didn't want you to ask me. uh, my I was raised in a family business. When my dad passed away when I was very young, my mother took on the yellow cab industry. So it's really interesting. I think I would have probably taken a big part of that business and ran with it myself. But I was always just caught up in my career and stuff. But Mickey Rourke always said, that when you get a real job as an artist, whether or not you're successful, it feeds your work because it gives you character, something like that, he said. And I've just I always grew up around the hustle, and I guess that's I think I probably would have leaned more towards that side, just doing some gritty work that exposed me to as many types of people as possible. And I think that, obviously with Uber and everything going on, the yellow cab business in New York is not what it used to be, but it definitely exposed me to the kind of melting pot that I always admired about New York. So I think whether it would have been to run a taxi base or maybe even be a taxi driver, it would have kept things exciting and interesting. So my mom is still in the business and still has yellow cabs, and I'm always there involved in some way, shape, or form. But the blue collar community of New York is what always has inspired me, and it's what I grew up around. And to this day, it informs every type of work that I do. So if I wasn't an actor, I think I'd feel at home doing something like that.
And for my final question of the day, what does the future hold for James Martinez?
Oh, wow. Ooh, that's the part that keeps this so exciting. You don't know. I mean, you really don't know. It's when you have a 9-to-5 job, you pretty much know what your year's going to look like. You know what your vacation days are going to look like. You know when you're going where, and this is just not that kind of life. So if you're not okay with not knowing what your future looks like, this is just not the career for you. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm noticing some kind of momentum going on, growth, more of the kind of work I want to do coming in. So I just hope that keeps going and that keeps growing, and I meet more people that are like-minded and that want to do some work that can make some progressive change. So that's all I can hope for. Hope and pray. That's all I do. I always tell people, during this pandemic right now, so many people are out of work or uncertain about their future. It's just like, yeah, that's basically been every actor's life since they started this. But now there's a pandemic, so those people that are accustomed to routine are going through a little scare right now. But that's just been my lifestyle.
And for those people who are listening, old fans as well as new, how can they get in touch with James Martinez?
You are James Martinez, at You Are James Martinez on Instagram, James Martinez on Facebook, and You Are James Martinez on Twitter. So you are.
Yeah. James, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure. It's been great talking to you after all these years. Can you take us out?
Hi, I'm James Martinez, and you are listening to the Quidditas Factor.
Thank you for listening to the Quidditas Factor. I am Michael J. Arbouet. Before I let you guys go, please visit my website at www.mikearbouet.com. That's MikeArbouet.com. And please check out the Quidditas page and go to my shop and go to Arbor Artifacts and buy a t-shirt that will help keep the show going, as well as my wife's Etsy store. That is Poem Jewelry Design. She makes wonderful jewelry, so if you're looking for something for someone, please check that out. And also, if you want to become a patron, please, by all means, check out my Patreon page. Click on the button on the website. and become a patron for like $1 a month or $5 a month. You really help the show going, and I'll give you some secret tips and stuff that didn't end up in the broadcast. Little tidbits of knowledge information that you might like. Please come back next Tuesday for an all-new episode of the Quidditas Factor. Thank you for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to the Quidditas Factor with Michael J. Arbouet. We'll catch you next time.